Bertie had been given the afternoon off, and was waiting for Thomas to arrive. He had a special proposition. "Brum, I wonder if Thomas wants another race. I hope so." Back at the sheds, all was quiet. Annie and Clarabel were waiting patiently in their sidings for the next train, and Thomas and Percy were in rapid discussion. "I was talking to Lady the other day, Percy, and she said there might be more magic buffers on our railway than we could ever have possibly imagined."
"Are you sure, Thomas? That doesn't sound very likely. Surely the troublesome trucks would have bashed us through one by now."
"Lady had all that time in Muffle Mountain to study the maps of the Magic Railroad, and she swears there were extra buffers on there that none of us have seen before."
"Well, Thomas, why don't we go and investigate and find out?"
"I'd love to, but I must dash. Bertie's waiting for him in the station. I think he wants another race." And with that Thomas collected his driver and fireman, and they went on to the turntable. They were turned in the right direction, and Thomas quickly shoved off towards the main station. "Hello, Bertie. The station master passed on the message to the sheds. What is it that you needed?" "Well, Thomas, I've got the afternoon off, and I was wondering if you did too." "As a matter of fact, I do. Would you like to have another race, Thomas?" "I'd love to." "Sounds like a plan." But it was at that moment that the Fat Controller arrived. "Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da," sang Thomas. The Fat Controller was not impressed. "Would you cut that out, Thomas? The road near the quarry has been damaged by a rock slide, and I need you to go to the factory and collect some tar, Thomas. It's waiting for you." "Yes, sir. Of course, sir. Right away, sir. Sorry, Bertie, you'll have to wait a bit longer for that race." "Brum, Thomas. Maybe then I'll be able to get my American accent up and going." As directed by the Fat Controller, Thomas quickly reversed back to the junction and set off to collect the tar. Back at the sheds, Percy couldn't help think about magic buffers. Then an idea flew into his funnel.
"What about those buffers at the end of the line next to the key? I've never been down those before, and I don't think Thomas has crashed into them either. I wonder if they're the magic buffers that Lady was talking about."
Percy knew he was doing the wrong thing, but without his driver and fireman, he rolled onto the turntable and began chuffing straight towards the buffers. As the driverless Percy chuffed past, Bulstrode had just pulled into the key. "Hey, have you come to unload... Percy, where's your driver and fireman?"
"Never mind my driver and fireman, Bulstrode. I've got some magic buffers to find. Besides, Thomas managed with our driver and fireman, didn't he?" And without waiting for an answer, Percy chuffed forward, right towards the buffers. "Here goes!"
And with a shimmer of colours, Percy disappeared. But Percy, Thomas crashed into a station master's house when he didn't have his driver and fireman," called Bulstrode, but Percy was already gone. "So there you are, Truck. Why can't you just be in the place that I left you?"
"Botheration. It doesn't matter where I go on these Bluebird railways. I always seem to wind up with you."
"Oh, shut it!" said Thomas, as he coupled up to the truck, and they set off to collect the tar barrel. Thomas struggled. The truck was being troublesome, and was biffing and bumping along the tracks. "Here we are. Foreman, sir, can you load us up with the barrel, please?" asked Thomas as they arrived at the factory. Then, with a clank and a clonk, the barrel dropped from the loader, safely into the truck. Thomas chuffed forward to the station, but he had to stop for a signal. "Botheration! I shall be late, and the road will not be able to be fixed, so the miners can get to the mine,"
"Hang on. Can you hear something funny?"
said the truck, whose back axles were fouling the main line. Suddenly, the buffers at the docks sparkled and glowed. All of a sudden, Percy appeared.
"Yikes! I don't have my driver and fireman. I can't stop."
"Bust my buffers! Percy, you found some of the magic buffers!" Thomas tried to chuff forward and move the truck off the main line, but it was too late. Percy slammed into the side of the truck, and the tar barrel flew into the air, before crashing on Percy, sending sticky grey tar everywhere. "Oh no," said Thomas. "The Fat Controller will not be pleased." Harold arrived with the Fat Controller on board, just as Percy had been pulled from the wreckage. "Percy, I'm very disappointed in you. You should have learnt from Thomas's example that leaving without your driver and fireman is very dangerous, especially when you're hunting for magic buffers and you have no idea when they're going to end up."
"Yes, sir,"
replied Percy. "And now, I hope that you will never do that again, and for your punishment, you will be left with that tar until I have time to get you sent to the steamworks." Percy stayed silent. "Now, Thomas, you must go back to the factory. They have a new barrel of tar waiting, so you can deliver it to the mine. I hope you'll be on time." "But, sir, my train with Annie and Clarabel leaves in 15 minutes. Who's going to take it?" "Don't worry, Thomas. I'll send James to take your train for you. I believe he's just had a washdown."
But James still doesn't have any wheels.
Botheration!
Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed my little adventure at the start of this video. But now it's time to move on to a bittersweet truth. This is the final set. The last Bluebird set that I can find that actually exists. Not discounting the supposed Percy set that has been heard about on the internet. Although I've never seen it, so I can't say that I know it exists. So now we come to the final page. This is the last Bluebird review I'll probably be doing, because there really aren't any more Bluebird items to review. However, that's not going to stop us from delving into this amazing new set and finding out what mysteries it solves and what questions it poses. Join me for the last part of the Thomas & Friends TrainzXtreme's Bluebird review. Here are the contents, character-wise, within this Bluebird magnetic playset. So, let's just go from right to left, because I seem to know there are a lot of American viewers that see my channel. So first we've got Big Harold. And when I say Big Harold, I mean Big Harold, because, we look at him compared to the engines, and he is huge. And we look at him compared to his James set Harold. He is massive. Absolutely ginormous. But he does have this Harold character that we've got from Bluebird does have this tendency to have holes in him. We've got this one for Harold for joining him on, and see my James playset review to see how that works. But this Harold has a special feature. On the bottom, he's got this big hole. And we can see that this turns with his propellers, which can turn. And as I'll show you later, this connects to the playset here, there, and allows his blades to spin. Looking closer at the Harold model, it's quite a nice model. It's very much like the Harold from the television series. He's got the extra details the other one doesn't have, like wheels and the detailing of the propeller. But he's also, because of his size, he looks a little bit, like cartoonish. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think that that's just something that should be noted. That his proportions and dimensions make him look very fat in the face and very kind of cartoony. I don't see that as a problem. Now his blades are a bit saggy, but that's probably just from many years of use by children and being in boxes. I can't say that I know. But that's Harold. Now we move on to Coach. Now there's a reason you're going Coach. Now this set's only meant to contain one coach, from what I've been able to find out. One coach and one truck. Now, this coach I first thought might be some strange composite and have, Annie's face on the front, Clarabelle's on the back. Because of, you can see that it's got the different painting on the side. However, nope. This is just a generic coach. And if we have a look, what makes it different to the other coaches is it doesn't have a face and doesn't have windows all the way along. What also makes it different to the other coaches that we've got is it's got another configuration of wheels on the bottom. We've got a steel wheel on the front, and a plastic wheel, which is hard to see in this light because it's black. There we go. On the back. And this bemuses me. I don't really know what's the point of having the two different types of wheels. I much prefer this to the system we have in the other Bluebird set, where we have the pole at the front and the wheel at the back. But I don't know what's the point of having two different sorts. What you've probably also noticed by now is that the coupling on the front is very, very different. Which, once again, makes cross-compatibility between these sets pretty much non-existent, but I'll talk about that more later. And the reason for this is because, if we get Thomas here, he's got a magnet in his coupling rather than a hook, and there you have it. The couplings are joined magnetically. It's nice to see that they put a magnet on the back of this coach, so you could combine it with the truck if you wanted to. Now we get to our favourite little engine. Thomas is his name. Now, a new face again. It's a different face. I think it's a bit... It doesn't seem to show as much emotion as possibly the other Thomases, but I think that it's still... It's not a bad face, it's just a different face. And you see this Thomas is, he's a little bit beat up. But, that's alright. All's well that ends well, yeah? And we can see that he looks very similar to the one from the other Bluebird set. Except this is not the case. Apart from his magnetic coupling at the back, he has on the bottom different system again. He's got 2 plastic wheels and this big magnet. What's a magnet doing there? Well, we'll find out when we get to the playset. But what I can say that this Thomas is once again a step up larger. Here are 3 Thomases from the Bluebird range. We've got Tiny Thomas, Playset Thomas, and Magnetic Thomas. Now we can see that this Thomas is quite large, and he's quite similar, except when you turn him on the side, and you realise that he's actually quite a bit longer. So if someone's really with this Thomas, throw in a chunk right about there to extend out and bring his cab back a bit. I'm not really sure what the purpose of that was. Possibly to accommodate the magnet, because this guy doesn't have to accommodate the magnet. Oh, he's got blue tack in there from the video at the start. But you can also tell this because you can see that the overhang at the front and the back is a lot more than it is on this Thomas. And the same goes for Percy. He's got this same system of the plastic black wheels with the magnet on the bottom. So he's a bit longer, but very similar in design to his miniature railway counterpart. Mine's missing his eyebrows, but that's okay. The face is very, very similar to the other one that we saw in the set. But he's still a very nice Percy model. Now we move on to Bertie. Now, we can see that he looks very much like the other one, and that's because, as far as I can tell, whoops, he's exactly the same. Obviously, you can see this one's had some wear and tear on it too. But he's actually the same model and the same size and the same scale as the Bertie from the other playset. So that's good in the sense that, oh look, I have a spare in case I break it. And now we get to spot the difference. Because we've got Bluebird here from the magnetic railway and from the miniature railway. And at first we realise that they're very similar. In fact, they have the same mould. However, there are a couple of things that are different. The first thing is that on this Bluebird we've got a very big writing. On the Bluebird from the other set, we have the smaller writing. The next difference I've been able to spot is that the cabin on this one is white, whereas on this it's yellow, the same colour as the deck. The next difference is the painting on the life vest raft thing. And also the funnel is another different factor, where this one's a bit taller, where this one's a bit more stumpy. But apart from that, the 2 Bluebirds are exactly the same. So it's obviously the same roll that they've recycled. I don't really know why they've changed the colour between the sets, especially because I think this one is a more superior design and colour scheme. But I don't know. But it is nice to know that he does actually have a different face. If we can get that in, there's that kind of like a burst face. Whereas this one's more like a, oh my god, face. I think this one's a little bit more Bluebird-esque, if you ask me. Now the final thing, which is the barrel. Now you're probably going, oh, this is boring. But it's the one thing that I see missing the most from the very few times that I've seen this set, is that it's often missing. And the reason it's so special, it's not just an ordinary one, is because it actually has a magnet in it, which allows it to do some cool things on the set. But as we can see, it also fits in here. Now, in case you realised, you're going, hang on, there was a truck in that video. Well, there was, but this set unfortunately didn't contain the truck in it. It was the only thing that I can find that was missing, apart from one of these little dock things here, from this set. And that's the reason I bought it, because it's the most complete set I've seen so far. So that's a little bit disappointing. However, we'll find out that there's actually a way to get around that in case you end up in this situation. But first, let's get on to the... So as you can see, there's once again a massive difference in the size of these sets. This set, Bluebird was like, I know, let's cram as much track, and probably almost too much track, into a tiny amount of space. Whereas in this one, they're like, let's take our time, let's spread this out, and get some really cool like shapes and curves and symmetry and stuff going on here. So as you can see, that the plan of this track is much simpler than this track. So now, we'll start from the right of this set and continue the trend. We've got this engine shed, and it's dual berth. Unlike the one here, which is 3 berths and only contain 2 engines. So this one makes a lot more sense. Now what is interesting is this little lever here, and if you twist this to the top, it chooses which engine can come in and out of the sheds. And that can also be activated by the magnetic system of the track. As you can see, I'm not touching anything. follow the track down, we've got the typical Bluebird points. We've got a turntable. Now, this turntable is very free-moving compared to the last one. And it's an interesting turntable because it doesn't go anywhere else. It just switches the engines around. But it's a good little turntable, much easier to move than this one, which I approve of greatly. Now, we follow the track around. We've got this little bit of straight track here. We go around. And we get to the dock section. Now, you can see there's a little bit of an imprint cut out, which is for Bullstroke to sit in. And we can see you've got this here, and this crane does something, but I'll demonstrate that in a second. Then the track continues up, comes down to these points, which are interesting. They're the only points in all of Bluebird which actually have a switch. I think that's cool, and you can see there's a special mechanism here to make sure the trains follow the direction they need to go, and that's really cool. We come to this junction, which is a bit interesting. We come here, we go around, we go under this tunnel, we come out the other side, we go past the loader, round underneath the helicopter pad, and the side. Now either we can come back down to the start, or we can go across to Wellsworth Station and around. Now what gets cool is when I can show you how this system actually works. Now in case you haven't guessed, this here, despite how incredible it sounds, is a map of the layout. And you can see that I'm moving the Fat Controller, you can hear something clicking. And that's because there's actually a magnet which is moving under the track in line where the Fat Controller is. And so right now what I'm actually doing is moving a magnet around the track. And you're going, well, what does that do? Well, here, I'll just demonstrate. If I come over here and grab our Thomas, place him, there you go, that click, he's magneted in. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I show you the only Bluebird set which is actually like semi-automated. So you can see that I go around the points. Oh, it's a bit difficult. It's a lot more difficult than it looks. And you can see here's the first thing. The gears of the magnet go past and close the gate, which I think is really cool for when Thomas goes past, and opens it when he's gone past. Thomas goes into the tunnel and comes under. He gets just the right distance so the truck is there, and we can see that the little yellow lever went. We go here, and this spins. Come around the corner. Whoop. And the signal goes down. And then we come around, back down this way, and we can see that the crane moves. So now I've coupled up Thomas to coach, as we're going to call it. And we can see Thomas goes around, he pulls the coach along. Oop, oop. Bit jerky. Hello, Bertie, he says. He goes round. There we go. The barrel's going to drop. Oh, there's not a truck there. Harold's blades. Going to give a bit of a spin for us. Then Thomas, oh, if we can get him around, goes into the station like so. Then we send Thomas around. Get him through this junction, maybe, if we can. No, oh, there we go. Come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Come on. Oh, no, that's definitely not the right way. Okay, as you can see, this is quite a challenge to steer, especially when you're reversing. Oh, coach in the siding, uncouple. Then Thomas goes, oh, back I go, quickly to the sheds. I'm really, really tired. Oh, this should be the other way. Let me just change that for you, everyone. Okay, so Thomas goes into the shed, go around, bang. And out comes Percy. Percy's like, you know what I want to do is pull a truck so I can show everyone what that barrel does. Now this is where we get to be interesting. Due to the fact that the gauge from this railway and this railway is actually the same, it means that this truck does work on this track. It works on this perfectly fine. Obviously it's still got the issues with the whole dragging thing and it's slightly the wrong scale, but you get the idea because it still works. The only problem being now that we don't have a coupling. However, this is what I've managed to do. I've cut the edge of a paperclip and got a little magnet. I don't know where it came from, but I just found it. And I actually rigged up my own self-done coupling. So now you can see that I've used this to create a makeshift coupling, but this has its own problems, which I'll get to in a second. But first, let me demonstrate what the layout looks like with the truck. So most of this is pretty similar. Now, because the truck is not it's a bit of a makeshift one, it kind of jerks around and has a habit of derailing, but it gets the job done. So Percy comes underneath the loader. Oh, we missed. But normally, if you can time it right, which is part of the fun of the set, of course, the barrel drops straight into the truck. Now the challenge then next is to get to the truck all the way to the docks. As he said, he's a bit leaning now, without dropping the barrel. Can we do it? Can we do it? We can do it. We can do it. And then once we get to Percy to the docks, come on, buddy, come on. What? This is where it gets very cool, ladies and gentlemen. We just reverse back on the forwards. Oops, we've dropped the barrel. Try again. This should be in a fail rail, but oh well. Yeah, there we go. We have the barrel, and then as we move it over, we drop the barrel. Now, if that's not a cool play feature, ladies and gentlemen, I really don't know what is. And I think that just what happened just then is exactly the reason why this is such a fantastic set. And I mean, I've just showed you all this. I've showed you, like, the mechanisms and the crane and all that kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of it I can't explain. I don't know how a lot of this works. The only thing I can say about the crane is that by moving it around, as you can see, the arm is attached. This arm, the magnet, when it moves around, the magnet lifts up and pushes the barrel off. And this is done through a system where the arm, this blue arm at the back here, actually goes up and down because of the lattice structure, and as it goes around, it detaches. But apart from that, I really honestly have no idea how this mechanism works. I just know that it's fantastic, and it's really, really cool. I can do all kinds of things. I mean, obviously the truck's derail, but you can see that there's so much fun to be had because it's the only Bluebird set where we can actually control the locomotives, and they're a really cool mechanism, right? Not even like batteries or anything. I think that's really, really cool, and I'm kind of jumbling up all the sections of this review, but that's alright. So as I said, this is a really whole kind of set. You've got the docks, you've got the road, you've got the station, you've got the factory, you've got some landscaping, you've got some sidings, you've got the shed. So it's very much like a repackaged, less chaotic version of this set over here. And so I think that the detailing, the stickering, as you can see, although this has got a crack in it, you can hardly notice it. That's because it's being glued on. You've got the stickers, the printing on the walls, the painting, the detail. I mean, the grass, the highlights, probably some of them, like the flowers, could be brought out with a texture if you want. But I mean, it's good to see they've highlighted stuff like this at the docks. You've got the tiled roofs. Like, there's a lot of effort and thought went into this set, and I think it's a really good set for like an all-in-one. It's kind of like a starter set in model railways. It's got everything that you need to really get started. It's got a couple of good characters and all that kind of thing. And in a full set, it would have the truck. And to be honest, I don't think this video can actually properly explain how amazing this set is. But anyway, it's time to move on. So let's look at some of the things which maybe Bluebird didn't get quite. Well, the first one's a no-brainer. I mean, despite how cool this mechanism is, it's a little bit dicey. I mean, it works fine, and as I said, if we take off Mr. Dodgy Truck here, because he's not a good example, but as I said, it works fine, but you get to places like some of the points and some of these corners, and it's a bit of a clicky squeeze to kind of get that to work. So I can understand that kids would probably get quite frustrated by this set, because of the nature that often, you get stuck on a point. Like, trying to go through these points is a nightmare. That point system was probably not the best idea. It's very hard to get the train where you want it to go. But having said that, I don't know how else they could have done that. And I mean, like, in theory, you should be able to go from this track up to this track, but it doesn't work like that, in case you haven't guessed. Yeah, that happens. On the plus side, it's very easy to reconnect the magnet. If Percy derails or whatever, we can just stick him on here, like so. Roll him around a bit. There we go, and now he's stuck on again. And I think that's the second criticism of the set. A lot of it relies on the magnet. And that's fine, except that we can't get into the bottom of it. It's all sealed off. I wouldn't want to take it apart because I don't know what's inside. But it's not easily replaceable. Like, for example, if this mechanism in here goes, you lose the function of this crane. If this mechanism in here goes, you don't get the closing gates. If this mechanism in here goes, you don't get the dropping barrel, Harold, this, even this mechanism here. At least this one's got hand crank. So I think that it's very reliant on parts, and I'm surprised that, this has lasted, 15 years almost, 1998, okay, not quite 15. But, it's lasted quite a long time from when it was first produced to now, and it's still showing very little signs of age, so I think that's a good thing. But I think that that's something that you need to take into consideration when doing this set. The other criticism is once again, the compatibility issues. I mean, like, although these guys will happily run on this track, because of their extended size, they do work, but they get a bit stuck on the corners and things. So they're not great runners, and as I've explained, like, these guys are quite happy to run on here, but once again, they're still... Oh, well, that would explain why he's stiff, because he has a piece of blue tack in there. But they're still not, like, perfect. Like, they do go along, okay, but they're not brilliant, and they don't do any of the cool stuff that the magnet does, obviously. So I think that once again, like, Bluebird got better this time. They realized that they should make something kind of compatible, so then you can do things like rig up a truck like this. But it also means if you do this, you get lots of derailments. And the reason for that is not only because we've got that little plastic thing and a ball rather than two balls, but the reason for this special coupling is because on the corners, it reduces the length of the coupling without reducing the mobility, because this bit can't move. It's not jointed like this, whereas this bit is. So it's enough so that if Percy wants to go around the corner and take the coach with him, preferably without derailing, but you get the idea. See, that works fine. But when he's got the truck on there, and the other set, the engine doesn't have any articulation. So then you've got double articulation, which means you have a really long coupling, and when you go around corners, you can end up with derailments. But I mean, overall, they're my main two criticisms, apart from, you know, obviously Harold being out of scale, and a couple of little things that probably aren't quite to scale and that kind of thing. But overall, I think they did quite a good job of the few faults. It's just that I think their toy, once again, was slightly aimed for the wrong age group. Well, what can I say? I mean, this set is very, very hard to find. It's very rare. I've seen 3 of them, including this one, on eBay. One of them went for $150, I think. And it was missing the barrel. It had everything except the barrel, from what I could tell. But apart from that, I've seen another one which was missing just about everything, I think, except possibly one engine. And I've seen this one. So that's, you know, me going on this adventure for quite a while looking for these sets. Checking. This is only the 3rd one I've seen. So it's very hard to get your hands on, which means you'll probably pay a hefty price. It was the most expensive set that I bought. Only just more expensive than this one, but remember that this one had everything except for the hook on the end and one of the barrel pipe loads, and it had the box and everything. Whereas this didn't have a box, otherwise I would have shown it. And if anyone has the box, I would love to see it. It'd be like the best thing ever. But, so you're going to pay a high price for this if you really want to get it. So therefore it's very rare, and I think it's very good to add to your Thomas collection. And so, would I recommend it? Most definitely. This is, I think, quite easily the coolest of the Bluebird sets. Like, just the mechanisms. People like me, like, you know, wannabe engineers, train lovers, all that kind of thing, just, you see this set and you're like, oh my god, there are so many cool things happening, I can't even explain myself. I was so excited when this came, just wow. Like, the whole mechanisms for something that was made 13 years ago. And now, in these days, all our toys are battery powered and we don't do anything with them. Like, the mechanisms of this are on par with the mechanisms in the big loaders. And I love the big loaders, even though you don't interact with them, but just because of the cool things that they do. And so I think that now we've got all the sets, I can say that this set is the coolest set. This set is the cutest set. This set is the funnest set. And James, who's hiding away on the top of my shelf, is the letdown set. And I hate to say that, but if you're not going to get one of the sets, I wouldn't get the James one. Only because of the fact that, as I've talked about in my other reviews, it doesn't have the same amount of playability as the other sets do. So overall, now I think I can finally say, what do I think of the Bluebird range? I think the Bluebird range was a fantastic line of toys. I think that there were so many opportunities. As you know, you can see that there was opportunities for these to join onto other railways, and I'm sure they had plans to join this onto other railways. And there were so many things that Bluebird was trying to do with these sets. It was fantastic. This is hands down the best line of Thomas toys, in my opinion, that has existed thus far. Despite only spanning 4, possibly 5 sets. And I think that it's really sad to find out that the Bluebird Toys Went Broke was bought by Mattel, and Mattel never did anything with these sets, which is sad. But I think that they're really cool, they're really fun, and the only problem is that I think they were aimed to the wrong age group, unfortunately. And that's the thing with Thomas. A lot of Thomas things, you have to aim them at the biggest market, which is obviously kids. But because of the small, fiddly nature of these, especially this one, and the couple of problems that I've listed throughout my reviews, I think they would have been enough so that parents would be like, look, my kids are going to choke on this. Oh, my kids lost all the pieces, so this is no fun anymore. Oh, my kids either broke this or they got fed up with it because of the complicated mechanisms. So I think that, although I can't tell you sales figures for these, I think the reason they probably didn't go as well as they could and weren't continued by Mattel, even the Polly Pocket line, which is also made by Bluebird, was because of the fact that they just didn't resonate with kids as much as they should have, and probably resonate with us older people more. However, having said that, I think it's a fantastic line of sets, and if you're a Thomas collector, these are definitely a must-have, and they are worth trying to find all the little bits for. So that's all for now. Feel free to post any questions, comments, suggestions, whatever, in this video. I hope you've enjoyed the Bluebird series, and I hope that I find an opportunity to make more videos with these sets, because they're really fantastic, and they're a lot of fun to make little shorts out of, because they're so self-contained. Yeah, so subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching all of this, and bye for now from TrainzXtreme.